Well, I guess I should change the bookcase behind me, but honestly, because I saw the concert on Halloween, I think it's kind of fitting. So I saw Bent Knee, Leprous, and Haken on Halloween this past Wednesday here in Toronto, and I just got to talk about it. I really have to gush and talk about the experience that I had at this particular venue. I was blown away by the entire show. Now, as you know, for me, I always like to get there a little bit early, and this was one of the first venues where a number of people had recognized me. One fan, I believe his name was Cody, he recommended a band for me to listen to and check out, so I plan to do that. Another fan that I had met on the subway who is a Torontonian, he was there as well, and we both kind of gushed after the fact because I ran into him after the show. And then finally, my good buddy from Sudbury, Travis, and I ran into one another, and Travis was traveling with his good buddy Shane, and the three of us kind of geeked out up in the balcony for the entire show. So Travis has his travel log. I'll link that probably like right there that you can check out for his little take. Overall, the show, that's why we're here. We're here to talk about the show. And oh man, the show was spectacular. Bent Knee. I knew Bent Knee going in, but I only kind of knew them from my peripheries. I'd listened to their latest album once through, and it was good, but it didn't really quite grab me as much as I was kind of hoping to, especially with the word on the street being so positive for these guys. But I'll tell you this much, the experience I had at the concert 100% changed my mind. These guys were incredible. If you haven't already checked out their work, do so. They only did 2 tracks that had been previously released, and then the rest of their set was all new material. And the new material just blew me away. Like, I cannot wait for the album that they're going to be releasing in the future. Like, at one point, one of these new songs blew me away to such an extent where I literally had to take out my phone and record it, because I wanted to record the moment, like the energy that these guys were producing, the overall sound that was going on. It was moving me to such an extent that I literally had to capture the moment. I only got the very, very end part of it, but also a part of it was just so that I had a point of reference, so that when I went back and tried to find the track, I had something to kind of compare it to. Now, unfortunately, it's a new track, so I can't find it yet, but I hope that they bring it out very, very soon. So yeah, Bent Knee, fantastic work, loved it. Oh, you've made a fan out of me. Now, Leprous, I was also very excited for. I had seen Leprous once before when they came to Toronto, and I really, really loved that show. I felt like, and this is probably the only criticism I'll have of the entire venue, is that I felt that Leprous's set was a little long. There were a few moments throughout the set where I was like, I feel like they've overstayed their welcome. You know, they are an opening band for the headlining band of Haken, and I know Haken loves Leprous, so they wanted to give them all the time in the world, but it did feel a little bit on the long side. I was really hoping for Rewind, The Flood, and both of these tracks weren't played, and I'm not overly that surprised. They kept 2 prominently tracks from Melina, and they played a few of the tracks that I really, really enjoyed. They played the one track that has that boom, track for the bass line. I mean, they pretty much played the entirety of Melina with very little else, and I felt like that extent, like that was a lot of music for them. And I mean, as much as I love Melina, it wasn't my favorite release of theirs. Like, they do have some really hard-hitting moments on it, but it didn't feel as... Like, I didn't feel as connected to Melina as I had their past works like Cole and The Congregation. Because of this, it kind of cut into the Haken set, which was, I mean, why we were really there. Like, I don't want to say that's why we were really there, because I still love Leprous, and Leprous was a major factor in why I went, but it wasn't the main factor. They played their typical Leprous way of being very atmospheric within the lighting show, very backlit, very isolating themselves from the audience. There was very little interaction between the lead singer and the band with the rest of the audience between songs. The thing that I did enjoy was they had a celloist playing alongside them that opened and closed the set, and I thought that was a really nice touch. But let's talk about the headliner. Let's talk about Haken. Haken was fantastic. This is the third time I've seen them live. They played all but the last 2 tracks from Vector. They didn't play Host and they didn't play A Cell Divides, but they did play everything else, and that was a fantastic treat. And then I believe they played Falling Back to Earth 1985, and I think that's it. Oh, and then they had their big finale, their encore, and we were kind of wondering as to what song they would play as their encore, because they didn't touch anything from the first 2 albums. So I was kind of going back and forth as to if they were going to play Celestial Elixir, if they were going to play Visions, because they had a lot of time left, and I knew part of that was just because Leprous' set was so long. But they surprised us all by cranking out Crystallize from Restoration, and this is the second time I've heard that live, and they did a fantastic job of pumping that out. This was a fantastic, fantastic show, even with a little bit of the but a great way to spend my overall time with the band. Because Vector was so heavy, they had a lot more of a heavy sound overall as well. And part of that was probably the influences of those who they were touring with. Now, I will say, I was surprised that they didn't play The Architect, because the lead singer from Leprous does provide vocals for that track. And I was very surprised that they didn't play that one, because they had the lead singer there to provide the vocals for that section of the song that he was singing in. So yeah, it was a lot to think about. And as I said, overall, fantastic show. Probably one of my favorite concerts of this year. And it was the first time I was in that venue, and it was at the Queen Street Opera House, which was very gothic, which fit the atmosphere perfectly for a perfect Halloween. So that's my overall take. That's my own little ramble about the show from last Wednesday. What did you guys think? Have you seen the show? If you have, let me know of your own experience of that by commenting down below. That's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.